Everyone said that the real star this weekend was the track, North Wilkesboro Speedway. Kyle Larson had something to say about that. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove, coming to you from an Airbnb in the middle of nowhere. Slapshoes is in the other room. I don't think you can hear him. Jared, the iceberg. Jared, you want to be on camera? He's up in the chicken coop. There he is.
Oh.
Yeah, there.
Hi.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, they can see you. There's Slapshoes. Oh, well, yeah, sweet deal. Yeah, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I don't even know if I'll have the internet to upload this. This is like the most country I've ever looked, between my outfit, between the cow on the wall. Anyway, let's talk about the AllStar Race. I'll save the mushy, sentimental stuff. Oh, North Wilkesboro Speedway is back. Who would have thought? I'll save that for the very end. Before we talk about Kyle Larson, I want to start with the next gen car, because it's clear, it's obvious that the next gen, or can we call it the Gen 7 by now? The Gen 7 still needs work. At least the short track package does. I don't think it's just, Goodyear needs to bring a softer tire. I don't know what kind of tire combination they brought. I imagine they were trying to be pretty conservative, knowing that this old, almost 40-plus-year-old surface was expected to eat tires. I understand they probably played it as safe as they possibly could, fearing the worst. But beyond that, there's things they can do to the cars. They've already taken things off the underneath the car. I'm sure there's even more they can remove. They've removed 2 or 3 inches of the rear spoiler. Can they add horsepower? It's not gonna happen this year. Could it happen next year? There are a number of things they could do to potentially tweak these cars, but the current short track package is not satisfactory. They can do better, and I think NASCAR and many of those in the industry agree and are actively looking at new solutions. They're probably looking at cheap solutions first, but if worse comes to worse, I hope they're willing to open up their wallets and do what needs to be done. Fix these cars so that Bristol, Martinsville, Richmond, and now North Wilkesboro are the bangers they're supposed to be. So I want to preface this video with that. The racing this weekend, and I was there for the truck race, I was there for both Cup heats, I was there obviously for the Cup race tonight, the Open and the AllStar Race. Overall, I leave the track this weekend feeling very good. Truck race I thought was really solid. I think the heats last night with the wet tires were a little disjointed, but were overall okay. I thought the AllStar Open, we'll talk about in a few moments, was fantastic. Tons of good juicy drama. The fans in the stands were eating it up. The AllStar Race, unfortunately, kind of ended the weekend on a sour note. Let's talk about Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson admitted afterwards that he knew he was stinking up the show. He just was. This race was 200 laps, but it was really over on lap 60. Or I'm sorry, lap 54. I just checked my notes. He passed William Byron for the lead. He had to come through the entire 22, 23 car field. I know he had a little bit fresher tires. He had to pass every single car because he'd had a speeding penalty, I believe. Passed every single car in 30 laps, took the lead on lap 54, and that was the race. It was crazy in the stands watching Kyle Larson. I was sitting there in turn 1, every single lap, he was underneath someone. Lap after lap, without fail, he was like a machine. Very impressive, but that was the race. I mean, once Kyle Larson got the lead and his pit crew didn't mess up there during the midway stage break and he came out with the lead, it was over. Barring a late race restart and some Yahoo in the second or third row just full sending it into Larson, unless somebody did something stupid, Kyle Larson was winning that race. So unfortunately, the AllStar Race is billed as a winner-take-all event. Don't even pay attention to 3rd, 4th, 5th place. Winning is all that matters. And unfortunately tonight, there really was never a true battle for the win. So that kind of stinks. But congratulations to Kyle Larson. I believe this is his 3rd AllStar Race win at 3 different tracks, if I'm not mistaken. He's won it at Charlotte. He won it Texas, I think, a couple years ago. Let me turn to my factor. Jarrett, what was the AllStar Race in 2021? Was it Texas?
It was Texas.
It was Texas. Yeah, I'm not even gonna Google. I'm gonna trust Jarrett. The iceberg is correct. He's won at Charlotte, he's won at Texas, now he's won at North Wilkesboro. Hey, 3 different $1 million paydays. That's kind of cool. If you weren't a Kyle Larson fan, this race was probably tedious to sit through, but I did enjoy that we got to witness a great driver put on a great performance. Even the second half of this race, when Larson was on equal tires as the rest of the field, his tires just lasted longer. He was still able to make passes. He lapped all the way up to, I don't know, 12th maybe? I kind of joked about it, but yeah, coming into this weekend, everyone was saying that the star of the show for this week was the track. Yes, it's the AllStar Race. Yes, it's about which driver wins $1 million, but the true star of the show is North Wilkesboro Speedway. And in many ways, that is definitely true, but tonight, it was, in a way, refreshing to see one driver and team stand out from the competition and get rewarded. There wasn't a late 10 to go, 2 to go, overtime restart where, again, some Yahoo in third place just went full send and, got it to work. You didn't have the two leaders crashing each other on the final restart like you had last week. No, it was just a straightforward race where the best driver and best team by far were rewarded. And I think more races should end that way. I love some unpredictability. I love heartbreak. Who doesn't? That's why we watch sports, for those kinds of stories, those moments. But sometimes it's nice to see the best driver, the best athlete, the best team win, and win convincingly. Like we saw an all-star on track tonight, Kyle Larson. So congratulations to him. I want to talk briefly about some of the racing behind him. Again, not to dwell on the next gen car, how it races at short tracks, tire fall off, etc. North Wilkesboro all weekend long, whether it was trucks, whether it was cup, was a one groove track. If you fell off the inside lane, half a groove, full groove, you were done. You were getting passed by 1, 2, maybe 3 cars, maybe more. Like it got to the point where first, second, third, and fourth place were all lining up on the inside lane. They were giving fifth place the front row because they had that little faith in the outside lane. So the track, some would say that's part of its charm. Others would say that was kind of a frustrating element of the track. I fall somewhere in between. But all I know tonight is we got some long runs, kind of like Martinsville we've seen the past couple of trips there. It took 40, 50 laps, some significant tire fall off, some rubber perhaps to be laid down for the racing to actually get really competitive, at least up front, where you'd actually start to see passing. You'd see guys fall back really badly. Like Chris Buescher at the end of this race went from like 6th to, 16th, something like that. It just took a long time to get to that point. The first 30, 40 laps of a run, you'd have a lot of passing on the first 2 laps after a restart, jostling, etc. But after 3 laps, there was not much passing up front. Until there was substantial tire fall off. So, in a short race like this, which had a couple of long green flag runs, it's going to limit the amount of action we see because it's only a 200 lap race. It took 50 laps for anything to really start happening, unless you had fresh tires like Kyle Larson did. I know all that really matters is the winner, but I do want to go and look at the top finishers. There are some interesting trends, like both 2311 Toyotas finished inside the top 3. So it doesn't really pay like winning, but it's some momentum perhaps for Bubba Wallace, for Tyler Reddick. I was happy to see them both do well. Bubba Wallace ran really well in the truck race on old tires at the end of the truck race Saturday. He held off Larson, held off the rest of the top 5 better than I thought he would. So Bubba Wallace and Kyle Larson for that matter, I think that experience they got Saturday probably helped them out here tonight. They finished 1-2. Chase Briscoe, like I was just saying, was sitting there 6th, 7th place that whole final run it felt like until, 50, 60 laps were on the tires. Suddenly he started to make some moves. In the final 20 laps, he made a pass for like 5th, got up to 4th. That's where he ends up finishing. Just took a long time to get there. Like, oh, okay, Chase Briscoe saved some stuff. Look at that, he's making moves. It just took a long time for that punchline to finally get delivered. But still, a really good run for Chase Briscoe. I've been hard on him the last couple weeks because that team has been woefully inconsistent, sometimes just outright slow. They were not slow tonight. Unfortunately, it doesn't pay points, but still, maybe something to build on. Top 5 for Chase Elliott continues to be very, very consistent, just does not have the dominant speed that, in this case, Kyle Larson has. Ryan Blaney, all-star winner last year, gets another solid finish. You can see basically the rest of the finishers. Again, it is what it is. It's the all-star race. All we really care about is who won this thing. I will shout out Ty Gibbs, though, transferring in through the Open, ends up with a top 10, finishes 9th. Let's talk about the All-Star Open because, that was the best race of the day, I think. In that Open race, I didn't have a great view of it. It happened on the exact far end of the track from where I was sitting, but it looked like Ty Gibbs on a restart, forcing the issue, kind of bumped McDowell up off the bottom, forced it 3 wide. They got into Haley. McDowell ended up hitting the outside wall pretty hard, bent something in the right front. And that stank because Michael McDowell was the show the first half of that, really the whole Open race. He was making 3 wide moves on every restart, and it didn't always work out, but it was fun to watch. He'd gotten enough of those moves to work that he was up into the top 5, top 4 even, that cool throwback scheme. Looking really good, only to get kind of driven through by Ty Gibbs. I get why Michael McDowell was very frustrated. I would be extremely frustrated too. He took out his frustrations with Ty Gibbs blocking him. Ty Gibbs eventually got the lead, but then McDowell, slow car, multiple laps down, blocked Ty Gibbs a little bit, and that allowed, I think it was Josh Berry, to sneak by him. And it threw Ty Gibbs back into the clutches of Eric Almirola for the final transfer spot. So I guess my takeaway from this, one, Michael McDowell was the star of the afternoon. Everyone in the stands was like pulling for Michael McDowell. First when he was making those crazy, bold restart moves, but then after, he and Ty Gibbs had their issue. It wasn't a Ty Gibbs crowd tonight, if you can believe it. I know, shocking. But it was definitely a Michael McDowell crowd. They wanted to see some fireworks, and McDowell almost sort of delivered on that. Ty Gibbs made a mistake, I think, just a little over aggressive. I think Michael McDowell, the way he retaliated was totally fair, totally justified in my opinion. I do have good things to say about Ty Gibbs though, and I genuinely mean this. He still finished second. After all that whole deal, after getting blocked and contact with McDowell, he still held off Eric Almirola in the closing laps. And he's got a ton of talent. But we've seen in the past when things go bad for Ty Gibbs, when he gets beat up, when he gets roughed up, when someone races him a little hard, he has a tendency to kind of lose his head. See the finish at Martinsville last year with Sam Mayer. He didn't lose his head tonight. And I know you guys don't want to hear me defend Ty Gibbs after he basically wrecked somebody, but I do look at Ty Gibbs as a future star. He drives for Joe Gibbs Racing. He's got, I think, is it 4 top 10s on the year already as a rookie? That's not bad. He's a playoff contender. He's only a few points below the cut line. I was impressed with how he kept his head about it. He kept his composure. Makes that contact with McDowell. He's probably not feeling great about it. McDowell goes out there, kind of retaliates, puts Gibbs in a very vulnerable spot, and Ty Gibbs held on. He just raced smart the rest of the way, raced consistently, held off Eric Almirola. I've said this a lot this year. Last year, Ty Gibbs made a lot of mistakes, made a lot of enemies, deservedly so. But so far this year, in the Cup Series, he has, for the most part, kept his head down, gone to work, seemingly gotten better every single week. He's not making, except for maybe tonight, he hasn't really made any enemies this year. That's what he needed to do. He needed to rebuild his image. He needed to earn the respect of his new Cup Series veteran competitors. And for the most part this year, he has succeeded in doing that. Tonight messed up a little bit, but things could have gotten a lot worse. We've seen in the past things get worse real quick with Ty Gibbs. He prevented things from escalating further and still got a good result. So obviously you guys don't want to hear me defend Ty Gibbs after he wrecked somebody. I get that. Bad mistake, no doubt. McDowell deserved to be angry. But Ty Gibbs, I do have to give him some credit for maintaining some composure. Josh Berry won the open race and Noah Gragson got the fan vote. Congrats to them, I guess. It was weird to see 3 drivers, 3 cars with yellow bumpers on the back all make it into the AllStar race. So I came into this weekend predicting it would be veterans thriving, running up front, winning. It was not that. It was the exact opposite. I mean, we can count Kyle Larson, I guess, as a veteran at this point, but he's still, I think he's still under 30. Oh no, he is 30 years old. Well, okay, I guess Kyle Larson then was a veteran, but you look at the rest of let me pull up the top finishers again. Bubba, under 30, Reddick, under 30, Briscoe, under 30, Blaney, under 30, Chase Elliott, Eric Jones, Ty Gibbs. I mean, most everyone up in the front here I would consider to be a young or younger Cup Series driver. So it was not the night of the vets as I predicted. I got that one way wrong. Those were your top finishers tonight, though. Before we put this race on the groovy gauge, let's talk a little about North Wilkesboro Speedway. So I don't have the same nostalgic connection that I'm sure many of you watching at home do, that many of you have with this racetrack. I'm sure the broadcast with Mike Joy leading it, I'll have to go back and watch, I didn't see it, but I'm sure Mike Joy had amazing stories to tell. I'm sure there are amazing sentimental moments, nostalgic moments during the broadcast, during the weekend. I have a hard time relating to those because NASCAR stopped racing here in 1996. I was born in 1997. My only experience with North Wilkesboro Speedway are the stories people have told about it. I've gone back and watched many of the highlights. I've watched some of the old races like that 1996 race. I've seen glimpses of what this track looked like in its heyday, but I didn't grow up driving past its abandoned walls. I didn't grow up listening to my parents tell stories or maybe they raced there. I have no nostalgic connection to this track. But that being said, I really appreciated the history and the work that Speedway Motorsports, I guess we can even give Dale Earnhardt Jr. and iRacing some credit, the work that everybody put into this facility. Because walking around there this weekend, I mean, there was parts that were rough around the edges, a lot of dirt roads, hills with sketchy parking tram situations, porta potties everywhere. It looked like an old facility, but in many ways, I think it was comparable to Martinsville, which has 2 cup races a year. There are elements of it that I could relate to Bristol, which has 2 dates a year. This track was in better condition than at least I expected, having never been to the facility before. Maybe other fans were like, oh no, that's exactly what I expected. I was somewhat impressed by the facility. I don't know what the future of North Wilkesboro looks like. I heard some comments tonight from Marcus Smith that they're just now started talking about next year's schedule with NASCAR. They'll see if this track fits in. I hope it does. If it's the AllStar race again, if they have to repave it, I don't really care. I think the fans, the enthusiasm from the fans I talked to this weekend was enough to convince me that this should have a place at least for now, on the Cup Series schedule. Maybe not every year. I don't know if 5-10 years from now people will still be super hyped about North Wilkesboro Speedway. Like, NASCAR and its schedule, unfortunately, they have a bad recent history of new events being awesome at first and then the hype kind of dying. Like the Charlotte Roval, I feel like the hype has been less and less every single year. You saw that with the Clash at the Coliseum. It was not as big a deal, it seemed, from year 2 compared to year 1. I don't want to see that happen to North Wilkesboro Speedway. So will it be an annual tradition? Maybe, maybe not. But it deserves another race next year, even if it's an all-star race. Could be a points race. Do they need to repave the track? Maybe. Can they get away with repaving part of the track? I think I saw Larson tonight suggested they just repave the outside lanes to maybe make it a multi-groove track potentially. Yeah, there's maybe things they can do. They could get creative with it. But I believe this track should have a place on the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. Somewhere, somehow, make it happen. Keep it here. But you're back. Finally got back to this facility. It would be wrong to leave it again so soon, I believe. Anyway, now let's put this All-Star Race on the Groovy Gauge. If I factored in the All-Star Open, I'd have to give this a positive score because the Open was beat-banging, awesome NASCAR short track action. The main event, the All-Star Race itself, had its moments. It wasn't bad. Kyle Larson just ran away and hid. There were some really good battles. Again, on the long run, for 3rd, 4th, 5th, 8th place. But there was never a battle between 1st and 2nd, at least not after the first 54 laps. And so I have to dock it for that. I'm gonna give this race an even 50% because the first half was very good. Kyle Larson rocketing through the field. That was a cool storyline to follow. A lot of moves. The fans in my section, at least, were getting really hyped every time he made another pass on someone in turn 1. It was cool. Again, you're watching one of the greatest in the sport today, one of the greatest race car drivers, period, we have in the world today, going to work. Respect that. First half was cool. Second half was, he stank up the show. So I'm gonna go right in the middle, 50%. It was a tale of two halves. First half was great, second half, if you're a Larson fan, you loved it. I can respect it. Doesn't mean I enjoyed watching it. I'll just say that. Let me know what kind of score you would give this race down in the comment section below. If you were at North Wilkesboro Speedway, what'd you make of the facility, of the action, the amenities, all that stuff? If you watched it at home on TV, again, I'll have to go back and watch some of the replays this week. How did Fox do? Did they cover a lot of the mid-pack battles? There was a lot to see if you knew where to look, but I'm not sure if Fox's cameras caught everything. But that's gonna do it. Thank you all so much for watching. I don't think I missed anything too important. Jarrett, can you think of anything I missed?
No, that bug got it.
I thought he was asleep, honestly. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching, y'all. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. If you're new to the channel and you love all things NASCAR, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any upcoming videos. And thank you to my Patreon supporters for your very generous and continued support. Got lots of videos planned heading into the Coke 600. I'll see y'all very, very soon. Have a great rest of your weekend. I just realized I'm filming this at like 1 in the morning. The weekend's over. Have a great week.